By the time you hit your 30s, society tells you to have it all figured out. But what if everything you've been chasing is a lie? Your 30s are sold as the decade of success, the perfect career, the dream house, the ideal partner. But what actually matters when you're navigating this chaotic, pressure-filled decade? Today, I'm sharing a story that flipped my perspective on what truly counts in your 30s. It's not about ticking boxes or chasing someone else's definition of success. It's about finding clarity in the mess. Stick around to discover the 3 things that will redefine your 30s and leave you wondering why nobody told you this sooner. Let me take you back to when I was 32, standing in the middle of what I thought was my dream life. I had a high-flying corporate job, a sleek apartment in the city, and a social calendar packed with brunches and networking events. On paper, I was winning, but every morning, I'd wake up with this gnawing feeling, like I was running a race with no finish line. I was checking all the boxes society told me to: get the degree, climb the career ladder, save for the house, find the one. Yet I felt empty. That's when I met Sarah. Sarah was 38, a single mom, and a freelance artist who lived in a tiny rented studio. By society's standards, she was behind. No big house, no corner office, no Instagram-worthy life. But Sarah had something I didn't: peace. She radiated this quiet confidence, like she knew exactly who she was and what mattered to her. I had to know her secret. Over coffee, Sarah told me her story. In her early 30s, she was like me, chasing the perfect life. She worked 80-hour weeks as a marketing executive, barely saw her daughter, and was engaged to a guy who looked great on paper, but didn't light up her soul. Then one day, her dad passed away unexpectedly. It was a wake-up call. She realized she'd been living for everyone else's expectations, not her own. That's when she quit her job, ended her engagement, and started painting again, a passion she'd buried since college. Sarah's story hit me hard. It made me question everything. Was I chasing what I wanted or what I'd been told to want? That question became my obsession, and it led me to uncover 3 things that actually matter in your 30s. Let's dive in. The problem is, your 30s come with a tidal wave of pressure. Society screams that you need to settle down, lock in a career, buy a house, start a family, and somehow still have time for self-care and a side hustle. It's overwhelming, and the worst part? Most of us fall into the trap of measuring our worth by external milestones. We think, if I just get the promotion, the partner, the mortgage, I'll be happy. But chasing those things blindly often leaves us burned out, unfulfilled, and questioning everything. I was there. At 32, I was drowning in comparison. My friends were getting married, buying houses, posting about their perfect lives on Instagram. Meanwhile, I was grinding at a job I didn't love, wondering if I'd missed the memo on how to adult. The pressure to have it all was crushing me, and I didn't even know what all meant anymore. So I started digging. I read books, listened to podcasts, and talked to people like Sarah who seemed to have cracked the code. Through it all, I discovered 3 things that actually matter in your 30s. Not the stuff society shoves down your throat, but the things that bring real fulfillment. 1. Clarity over conformity. The first thing that matters is getting crystal clear on what you value, not what society tells you to value. In your 20s, you might have gone along with the crowd, picking a safe career or chasing status symbols, because that's what everyone else was doing. But your 30s are the time to define your own version of success. For me, this meant admitting I didn't care about climbing the corporate ladder. I'd always loved writing, but I'd pushed it aside because it wasn't practical. Inspired by Sarah, I started a blog on the side. It wasn't glamorous and it didn't pay the bills at first, but it felt like me. I was creating something that mattered to me, not just chasing a paycheck. Clarity isn't easy. It requires asking tough questions. What do I want my life to feel like? What am I willing to sacrifice? What am I not willing to give up? For some, it's leaving a toxic job. For others, it's prioritizing family over hustle. The key is to stop comparing your path to others and start building a life that aligns with your core values. 2. Relationships over resume. The second thing that matters is investing in relationships, not just romantic ones, but friendships, family, and community. In your 30s, life gets busy. You're juggling work, bills, maybe kids. It's easy to let relationships slide. But here's the truth. No one lies on their deathbed wishing they'd worked harder. They wish they'd spent more time with the people they love. I learned this the hard way. In my early 30s, I was so focused on my career that I barely saw my friends. One day, my best friend from college called me out. She said, "You're always too busy, but I miss you." It stung, but she was right. I'd been prioritizing my resume over my relationships. So I made a change. I started scheduling regular catch-ups with friends, calling my parents more, and even joining a local book club to meet new people. Those connections became my lifeline. They reminded me I wasn't alone in the chaos of my 30s. Research backs this up. A Harvard study that tracked people for over 80 years found that strong relationships are the biggest predictor of happiness and health. Not money, not fame, not promotions, relationships. So in your 30s, prioritize the people who matter. Call that friend. Plan that family dinner. Show up even when life feels hectic. Third, growth over goals. The third thing that matters is focusing on growth, not just goals. In your 20s, you might have been obsessed with hitting milestones, get the degree, land the job, buy the car. But in your 30s, it's less about checking boxes and more about becoming the person you want to be. For me, this meant letting go of my rigid 5-year plan. I used to think I needed to be a director by 35, married by 36, and a homeowner by 37. But those goals were arbitrary. They weren't tied to who I wanted to be. Instead, I started focusing on growth, learning new skills, facing my fears, and embracing failure as part of the process. When I started my blog, I wasn't aiming to go viral. I just wanted to get better at writing and sharing my ideas. That shift in mindset, from chasing outcomes to embracing growth, changed everything. Growth means different things to different people. Maybe it's taking a course to learn a new skill, going to therapy to work through past trauma, or simply reading more to expand your perspective. The point is to invest in yourself, not just in achievements. The turning point for me came at 34, when I finally quit my corporate job. It was terrifying. I'd spent years building that life, and walking away felt like jumping off a cliff. But Sarah's words kept echoing in my head. You only get one life. Don't waste it on someone else's dream. So I took the leap. I went full-time with my blog, moved to a smaller apartment to cut costs, and started saying no to things that didn't align with my values. It wasn't perfect. There were months when I barely made ends meet, and I doubted myself constantly. But for the first time, I felt free. I was living for me, not for society's checklist. I reconnected with old friends, spent more time with my family, and kept growing as a writer. And you know what? I was happier in that tiny apartment, chasing my passion, than I'd ever been in my perfect life. In conclusion, your 30s aren't about having it all figured out. They're about cutting through the noise and focusing on what actually matters: clarity, relationships, and growth. Stop chasing society's version of success and start building a life that feels true to you. It won't be easy. You'll face pressure, doubt, and setbacks. But when you prioritize what matters, you'll find something better than perfection. You'll find purpose. For me, that meant redefining success on my terms. It meant choosing meaningful connections over a packed resume and embracing growth over arbitrary goals. And it all started with a single question: what actually matters to me? So I challenge you to ask yourself that question today. Take a moment to reflect on your values, your relationships, and how you want to grow. Your 30s are a chance to rewrite your story, not someone else's. If you're new here and want more life-changing insights, hit subscribe. And if you're already with us, give this video a like and share your thoughts below. Your voice truly shapes this channel.